leftover apple pie from Christmas,
Woohoo!
Nice.
homemade by my sister.
Pie. And just like that, bada boom, bada bing, we are live for Triple T number 157. Happy New Year's Eve, everybody. And no, don't adjust the channel. This is my voice tonight. I will hopefully still have one by the end of the hour. I seem to have, I'm just going to call it the sympathy bug for everybody else that is dealing with the same stuff all over the planet. But let's get on with the show. My name is TJ Zebel. I call myself a professional problem solver, and I always follow that up with, no, I don't know everything. I just have a unique way of asking questions, helping people get down to the solutions and the answers they're looking for. We are live on YouTube, so I get to say, hi, Mom, love you. And for the rest of you on YouTube, thank you for showing up. Please do all the YouTube stuff. Click the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave comments, hit the like button. If you forgot to hit the like button on the other ones you watched, would you please go back and click them? I'm feeling a little left out. What else we got? Got my new website up and running. We did some more changes, so if you guys wouldn't mind checking that out and giving me some feedback, it is TSWB.com, the tall skinny white boy.com. That's right, that is I, and I and he have been since 1986 or even farther back. So yes, before the internet. So whatever else you find on the internet regarding TSWB, that's not me. I am the TSWB. I do offer a free, that's right, no charge to you, 30-minute consultation as your opportunity to contact me, and we will chat about your challenges, your goals, things that you want to accomplish. I get the opportunity to help people with depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD. I work with athletes from beginner all the way up to the pro level. I offer corporate coaching. I do a lot of relationship stuff. So if you're looking to change your relationship status in 2025, give me a call. Let's see what we can find out. And I'll let you know if we're a fit. If we are not a fit, I will also let you know and make sure that I help you find a person who can help you with the goals and challenges you're facing. Other than that, time to introduce the tie. Last tie of the year. I had a couple that didn't make it, so maybe we'll let them introduce themselves next year. But this year, to finish out the year, we've got, thought this would be appropriate, it's the footprints tie. When you look back and you saw one set of footprints in the sand, that's when I carried you. And sometimes we need a tribe around us to help carry the weight. And we're going to talk a little bit on that tonight as well. But I also like to start out with anybody got anything they'd like to share? Ahas, epiphanies, cool stuff from the last 7 days? Shut that off.
I find myself inspired this evening, so I ducked out. Yeah, on the same page. I don't know if you're going, Holly, but
figured
Love
it was a good night for this hat. Nothing to share for the last 7 days. And tonight is going to be another abbreviated 1 hour. It is also my wife's birthday. So we're going to duck out and go to a little celebration. And I know she's not watching, so we're also throwing a birthday party for her. Shh, don't say anything until tomorrow. What else? I guess it's time to dive in. Excuse me while I try and lube up the voice vocals. And I got a text from a number of our regulars. Because it is New Year's Eve, they won't be able to make it. We're going to be back running full operation in 7 more days. So next year we'll be back on full throttle. But tonight it's our intimate little group. And tonight's topics are the story, dating interview, and describe your mom. Yeehaw. So without further ado, jumping right in, the story. And everybody's got a story. We love to tell stories. We love to hear stories. But this one is regarding January 1st, 2026. That's right, 366 days from today. What I would like to see everybody that is watching this, regardless of when you watch this video, if you're watching this as a replay, get yourself a day planner, and as soon as you can, go to January 1st, 2026, and I would like you to write a little story about the year you had in 2025. And I've had a few people that I've told this to, and they felt a little challenged. And so I told them, if tomorrow, and you can do this, it would be great for you to do this, write a story that summarizes your year of 2024. What do you remember about it? What were your highlights? And a number of people do these for their Christmas letters that they send out to friends and family. And if that makes it easier, pre-write your Christmas letter for your friends and family on January 26th, highlighting the year that you've had. And then flip through the day planner through the year and reverse engineer the year that you've got coming up. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to overcome? What would you like to change about yourself? Maybe something you'd like to learn. Maybe an income change. Maybe a job change. Maybe a relationship status change. And look at the year and decide, when does it feel like that might happen? And I've had a few clients that are like, oh yeah, well, but what if it doesn't happen? I'm going to feel like a fraud. If it doesn't happen, it may happen earlier, it may happen later. If you are working towards those goals, they're going to happen much easier, much quicker, I promise you. The amount of feedback that I've had from clients that have stated a wish, an idea, a goal. Now, this isn't a resolution. Don't be confused, even though it's on January 1st, where everybody loves to make their resolutions, which of course means anybody who's a gym rat what is the part of year that they hate the most? The first 3 to 6 weeks of the year. Because everybody declares, I want to be more fit. And without getting a coach, making a game plan, figuring out their why are you going to stick to it? They just rush off and buy a gym membership and show up for a couple of weeks full force, and then the next couple of weeks half force, and then the rest of the year no force. And so when you're writing these things down, it's okay to write a couple of them that are so big and ostentatious that you're just like, yeah, it's never going to happen anyway. Write them down anyway. Last year, our beloved Lenora got up the I'm going to call it gumption or bravery to mention to me that she was interested in doing a TED Talk. And that was so far out of her wheelhouse, her comfort zone, you don't have a clue. And this year, not only did she do a TED Talk, she became she became the second person in 12 years to do 2 in a year. So when I say write it down, if it's something that you are really interested in, even if you don't know how it's going to happen, write it down. Worst case scenario, it doesn't happen again this year. Best case scenario, it maybe happens more than once. Anybody got any input, ahas, epiphanies while I lube up again?
Take a shot at it. I always find that you need again consistency. Sometimes you have to break things down into manageable steps. But if you're going to become a gym rat, you got to go every day or 30 days. That's what the data says. Then it just becomes the new normal. And but you got to have some fun while you're doing it.
Yes.
Because if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. So, but yeah, the consistency needs to be there. I showed up when I made the decision to go to the gym every day. The first month it was a blizzard, and still made it to the Planet Fitness, and the doors were locked, but I made it there on because I had to go there every single day. And then after that, it just became the new normal. So, yeah, it's the consistency, it's the fun. They said if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. So, you're not going to stick with it.
Yep.
That's true with everything. Yeah, we're kind of again but like you said, if you can find somebody to a coach, find that someone to go with, even when you don't feel like going, the other person's going to be there, so you make yourself go, and then that's sometimes when you have some of your best work.
Amen. And I'm glad you brought that up about finding a coach, someone to hold you accountable, somebody that can teach you ways to accomplish it according to your talents and abilities. And another thing I've found about working out, there are so many options now. Try as many as you can get away with. There's no excuse anymore to not have access to some way of working out. I mean, there are workout plans that use no weights, no equipment, that will still bust your rump. I know, I've done them. And so if your excuse is, well, it's a long way to the closest gym, but I want to get in shape. 3 solutions to every event, situation, or problem that may occur. If you want to bad enough, there are ways. Reach out. You can contact one of us if you want some input or some help. Anybody else got any other ahas, epiphanies? And Holly?
And so many thoughts come into my mind. I love what Mark was sharing. So first of all, I'm going to recommend for anyone watching this, I won't go through the whole thing, but Chase Hughes, for those who know who he is, put out kind of a New Year's resolution video talking about using his FATE model, which for those who don't know, that's focus, authority, tribe, emotion. Hopefully I remember those right. And using all 4 of those, leveraging all 4 of those when you make your goals. And like I said, I won't go too much into that, but for those making goals, I highly recommend checking that video out. But also, one of the things I completely had forgotten about this, but I had a dream a couple nights ago that I was leading a New Year's resolution Zoom call. I have no idea why I was dreaming this, but it just seemed so normal. I didn't even remember it when I woke up. But one of the things that popped into my mind while I was leading this fake Zoom call, well, it seemed real to me at the time, but was the importance also of celebrating our wins. And this came up in 2 ways. So one was, as we're writing what we want to do next year, we talked about doing the review of this year. But as you're talking about what you want to change in the new year, what do you also want to keep the same and celebrate and be grateful for?
Good
And
idea.
so in that, we just took aside 5 minutes and just brainstormed on that for 5 minutes. And then the other thing was, we talk about consistency. And by the way, the research that I read says you can miss an occasional day. The key is not to ever miss 2 days in a row. So if you think, oh, crap, I forgot to do it yesterday, you are not, it's not all over. You could go out. And once again, you can always, even if you miss 2 days, you could still do it. Like there's nothing that says that you've lost everything. But if you, miss that occasional day, you haven't lost. You still got it going. Just make sure you don't miss 2 in a row. But the other thing is, say you're going to go to the gym a half hour every day for the year, and you get out there and it's harder than you thought it would be because you haven't worked out in a while, and you only do 15 minutes every day for a year. That's still 15 more minutes than you would have done if you hadn't made the goal.
Amen.
And so it's okay to say, you know what? Yeah, I dreamt big. I went high, but my goal still got me out of the house, still got me doing. I'm going to celebrate what I did rather than beating myself up for the thing I didn't do.
And we've talked about that one guy that very obese and wanted to change it. And for the first, 2 weeks or something like that, he showed up. The first day he showed up, sat in the parking lot for 5 minutes and left. A couple days later, he showed up and he walked into the place and just walked around and looked at the equipment and left. And people were starting to go like, what's this dude doing here? Like, what, the gym rats are like, wait a minute, this guy, oh, what a waste of time. He just walked in and walked back out. He was developing the habit of showing up regardless. He didn't care if he showed up he had to be there at least 5 minutes. And then he got an interest in the place. And then he got to meet a few of the people and tell them that he wanted to improve his health. And he had never been in a gym before, and he was just trying to set up the habit. And pretty soon he was a regular and became an inspiration for a lot of new people there. So you don't know who you're going to inspire. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know what's going to change in your life by those little decisions if you're doing them for the right reason. And I think a big part of the problem with resolutions, like I mentioned before, people never is a big word. People rarely take the time to drill down and figure out their why. Why are you going to do it? What's going to make you do it on those days where you got 800 other options? Like Mark, what's going to make you drive there in a blizzard and find out the doors are locked because even the people that work there were like, yeah, peace out, ain't going to do it.
Well, again, I set my intent to go every day for 30 days and follow, like I said, so I was not going to let a little snow stop me. Could have easily, come up with an excuse. But yeah, I have another story about New Year's resolutions. One year, my mother-in-law, my wife, and myself, we made a New Year's resolution and to stop smoking. So we all quit at the same time, and um, we supported each other a little bit, and I thought, like I said, I got rid of the habit pretty quickly, so but I didn't think anything about that. I thought I was proud of my wife. She thought she had quit. My mother-in-law had quit. There was this thing every time I came home from work, I'd always kiss her when I came in, and her breath always smelled fresh. She had been brushed her teeth, and I didn't think of anything of it for a few weeks. And then one day in March, I came home from work, and she's on the couch crying her eyes out. And I was, and I'm like, what's the matter? And she's like, I have something to tell you. I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking, who died? She's like, I started smoking again. I'm like, yeah, but what's the problem? Because you're not mad? I'm like, no, you want I tell you quit when you want to quit, and maybe this wasn't the right time, and but no, I wasn't upset at all. Like I said, um, but she was so motivated to not disappoint me rather than to give up the cigarettes. That wasn't, she hadn't drilled down, to, and maybe she didn't want her mother to be disappointed that she hid it from me for like at least a month, you know. Uh, um, yeah, that was an interesting conversation. She's like, "You're not mad?" I'm like, "No, you're gonna quit when it's the right time for you, and and I'll support you, But no, but she was devastated that she was gonna have to tell me he had not quit. And I was like, again, my response was what you needed to hear. Wasn't quitting for the right reason.
Yep.
So
Yep. When I work with smoke cessation clients, first thing I do is drill down to why they want to quit. And if it's not strong enough, I tell them then keep smoking. Which is typically like the look on their face is like, well, wait, what? I'm like, no. If you don't want to quit for you, it's not going to last. And I don't want to take your money. When you find a reason that you want to quit for you, contact me and we'll make it happen. And a couple of them, just that freedom of choice gave them a reassessment on why they would want to quit. Too many of them felt they were forced into quitting. I got to quit because my wife doesn't want it, or my kids don't like it, or my boss told me I got to quit, or whatever. Same with exercise, working out. That's why a lot of resolutions don't stick. Why do you want to do it? Well, I probably should. Yeah, but why do you want to do it? Well, I don't really want to do it. I just know I probably should. That's a prescription for defeat, as far as I'm concerned. Mark.
yeah, my father faced um, a interesting choice. He was like 62 years old and went to the doctor. He'd been known for over 40 years. The doctor said, hey, Tom, you got to quit smoking. Like, oh, I can't quit smoking because smoking since I was a kid. And the doctor gave him a very clear choice. He said, go home, throw away the pack of cigarettes, go home and write out your will. That's a good doctor. My father went home, threw the pack of cigarettes away, and never smoked another day.
Yeah. And sometimes that's the reframe. That's all the reframe that's needed. This will drive a couple of people in our industry crazy, but I've stopped a couple of people from smoking in a public parking lot. I just struck up a conversation. How long you been doing it? How much do you like it? Oh, you don't like it? Why might you want to quit? Drilled down a couple of deals, told them a few other things, did some reframes, and said, it's up to you. It's your choice. And I said, here's my card. Let me know what happens either way. If you decide to keep smoking, I'd like to know. I don't have a problem with that. If you decide to quit, I'd like to know. I'd like to celebrate with you. And I had a couple of them that just sent me a text like, dude, I quit smoking that day and I haven't had a smoke for 2 weeks. Thought I'd share that with you. Anytime, anywhere, for any reason. And that's the other reason why I tell people, don't be afraid to meet people. You don't know who's going to change your life or whose life you're going to change simply by a hello and a little conversation. When I look back at my life, man, some of the places I've gone, things I've done, things I've learned, simply by being interested in people Blows my mind. I ended up in Europe for a year because I became interested in one of my clients at a bar that I was managing. Who'd have thunk? Mark.
What squirrels? Yeah, I don't know if it was Dr. David or one of the other many mentors from HypnoThoughts, but they said a lot of people, a lot of professionals, they're not, the person isn't in the chair, in your office, and you're following, the Elman protocol. They can't perform. They can't do what they do, because they've locked themselves into this format of, it's got to be in an office, it's got to be in a professional setting. Baloney. Like I said, you just talk to people, and I love talking to people. And, I was down in Jamaica for a destination wedding. I met a couple from the Netherlands and just talked to them for a little while, gave them a little bit of my stuff. And they're like, where do you practice? And I'm like, well, I have my practice in Massachusetts. We live in Massachusetts. We would come see you. I was like, well, isn't that a wonderful thing to say? I was just talking to them, Said you just talk to people and, like you said, you can do it. You can be authentic anywhere.
Yes. Absolutely. Anybody else got any ahas, epiphanies they'd like to share before we move on to the next topic? All right. On to the next one. Dating interview. Oh, as I mentioned earlier, and I have in many of our triple T's, I get a lot of relationship clients. I've got a protocol that I authored that has been very successful. And one of the things about triple P, the Perfect Partner Protocol, is going out for a lot of, I tell them, don't call them dates. They're events. They're things. If you went out to do something with your best friend or a group of people that you know, would you call it a date? And I have them agree that they're not going to be in a committed relationship for a year, which I always get massive pushback. Oh my goodness, I came to you to meet somebody. Now you're telling me I got to be single for another year. But one of my triple P graduates had another aha from somebody that they met and they were talking to, and they asked this person a question, and the person had a great reply and said, no, that's a date question. Let's just enjoy talking to each other, and we can ask these questions when we're in person on a date. And then the topic came up with how many have been on a date that felt more like an interview. Well, where'd you grow up? Who were you? What'd you do? What da 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 da. It's almost like you should have this checkoff list of, here's my qualifications and here's my spreadsheet and here's my resume and here's my work history and so learning how to be interested in people without making it seem like it's an interview is an art form. I know I've been guilty myself of meeting strangers and we're chatting and I'm asking them questions and all of a sudden even I'm thinking, man, this is like an interview. And the subtle difference is not gaining information for the sake of gaining information, but gaining stories and passions and backgrounds that tell who they are, not about them. Does that make sense? Any input on that? Mark.
Kind of overtalk to save your throat.
Thank you.
But if you chunk up, I mean, isn't everything we do as professionals, as human beings, is about relationship? You know, what's your relationship with money? What's your relationship with stories that you tell? That was a new one, neutral. But what's your relationship with life? What's your relationship with your career? What's your relationship with your loved ones, with your children, with your family? What's your relationship? You know, everything I think we inquire about when we try to talk to people about, in some way, shape, or form, could be framed as a relationship. You know, so when you're doing the interview, you have to actually be genuinely curious about the other person. You got to be sincerely curious about the other person. You can't turn into an interview. I mean, if you can fake sincerity, you got it made. But other than that, but everything we do, you know, like I said, your relationship with cigarettes, your relationship with food, your relationship with school, your relationship with your tribe. I know this is setting off about 27 bells and whistles, and I'm hoping she'll jump in. But everything seems to be about relationship. Right? Just about anything. What's your relationship with money? What's your relationship with people you have to interact with every day? What's your relationship with your people, basically? You know, and what's your relationship with life? You know, you're generally curious about the answer. Will tell you everything you need to know. You know, it doesn't have to sound like a job interview. Generally, sincerely interested in other people.
Exactly. And I'm trying to remember how the quote goes, but it's something like you can make 20 friends in the same amount of time by being interested in them as you can getting 2 friends by trying to be interesting. Something of that. It's much more powerful to be interested in people than to try and run around and show them how interesting you are. And that is still a challenge for me. I'll admit, you guys have gotten to know me. I can talk about anything. And it's real easy for me to get people interested in the things I've done. And I'm learning more and more. The more I redirect the conversation back to them and who they are, the more I enjoy the conversation in the end. And the more they remember me the next time I come back, which should seem counterintuitive. I mean, they don't know anything about me. Why should they remember me when I come back? Because I paid attention to them. I allowed them to talk about themselves. Mark.
Yeah. When you make it, like I said, and it goes back to and bouncing around all week. It's not about what you say; it's how you make them feel. And if you have a relationship with, listening, and I need to improve my relationship with good listening skills. Um, but if if I go into a coffee shop and I say, walk up to some young kid and I'm like, he's like, can I help you? And I'm like, yeah, what up, dog? You know, and he laughs, wakes up, he smiles. Like I said, you can say something interesting, but at the same time, like I said, just be, how's it going? How's your day? Um, give them make them laugh. They always seem to remember me.
Yes.
So they may remember how I made them feel.
And I'm glad you brought up hospitality because part of my class for hospitality servers is also letting the owners and managers understand they're not helping the business as much as they could by not allowing the servers to spend a little time at the table. When it's appropriate, you don't want that server that's showing up every 5 minutes and interrupting when you're trying to have a conversation. But they still should be able to have a little conversation and be able to make people laugh. One of the quirky little funky little lines that I teach in my class is, let's talk about drinks. Is it a school night? You thinking something light, or would you like what you deserve? And it usually gets a grin or a chuckle, and they're like, what? I'm like, that's exactly the reaction I'm looking for because that's money. Is it a school night? You thinking something light, or are you going to get what you deserve? And when you can get them to grin, you're in. That's coin on the table. And personalizing. Another thing from my hospitality class. Hi, my name's TJ. Welcome to the Rim. Tonight we've got Brian running the kitchen. You're in for a treat. He's been doing this for a long time. One of the best I've ever worked with. And now they know your name, but they also are connected to the chef, who they'll probably never meet. But if the food comes out good, that's Brian. Pretty soon they're coming back and they're asking if Brian is working. And so it's all of these little subtleties in personalizations and learning how to be interested in the other people. Going out to eat, meeting the servers is kind of like dating. If you find one you really like, you'll go back. Holly.
I'm loving this conversation. I don't necessarily have so much to contribute on the advice side, but I do have a lot of questions. One of the thoughts that kind of came to me is one way to get maybe better at meeting strangers could be to just find random people and say, hey, you want to go eat a meal together or something, and just get to know strangers. Like, I was thinking if I, maybe this year, if I make my goal to build up a budget, and then maybe next year, my goal once every off week to take someone to lunch or something or dinner or whatever, just a stranger and get to know them. That could be a good thing. Um, but the piece that I'm missing is how can I invite a stranger to lunch or dinner for hey, I like to get to know people. I'd like to get to know more about you. Would you be up for that? How can I do that in a way that's not creepy, that's socially acceptable? I don't know what words to use for it, but hopefully that question makes sense.
The first thing that popped in my head is meetup groups. And I get a lot of people like, I looked and there's nothing I like. I'm like, then start one. And if you're the only one that shows up for the first couple events, you got out. You had a reason to go out and do something. But what I've found to be true enough to be true, man, if you look at some of the meetup groups, and I was that's how I met my wife, Tall Singles Group. And we weren't there for speed dating or any of that stuff. It was just a group, and Bill, God bless Bill, because you could have 3 different groups for one sign up. He made cat lovers, tall singles, and worldwide travelers or something like that. It was a travelers group. And he would announce the location for all 3 of them together. Didn't matter. And so if you're into restaurants, you could search first to see if there's any foodie groups. There most likely is. If not, start a foodie group. Restaurant hoppers. We're going to get together twice a month on Saturday afternoon and try out a different restaurant. Worst thing is you show up and twice a month you're going out to eat. And the cool part is we met a lot of people simply because we would have the plaque out so people could find us, have a balloon. You show up at the restaurant and get a big table with a balloon and a plaque that says restaurant hoppers. Somebody's going to go, what's this all about? Oh, it's just a group. Anybody can join. We just get together and pick a different restaurant, and it's a way to meet people without pressure. And you never know who you'll meet. Again, that's where I met my wife. And the funny part was, the night she showed up, I was in a less than positive mood. We'll leave it at that. And when she showed up, she was the tallest woman there and the second tallest person there. And she's like, I thought there was for tall people. Well, I was outside letting off some steam. Came back in, met her, da-da-da-da-da, still having a bad night, went back outside, got myself calmed down, came back in. I was like, all right, so where's that hot blonde? There she was, heading out the door. Boop, she was gone. I tell that part because Bill got a lot of guff for at first because we had short people showing up to our tall singles meetup as well. And I told Bill, you gotta rewrite the description. We welcome people of any size because there are tall people that are attracted to short people. There are short people that are attracted to tall people. If you want to hang out with some tall people, there'll be some here. And then nobody could give us a hard time anymore. But long answer to your question. That help?
It's a great answer. I do have kind of a follow-up if we have time, and maybe we could take this to another week too. But as we're thinking about this, like I've gotten really good at hanging out in groups. And I will say for anybody looking for practice, groups are great. But I mean, there was a point in my life where I was hanging out with different groups on average 5 to 6 days per week.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking as we're talking about this, like I could probably count, okay, maybe both days. I was counting them up. The number of people that I wouldn't have a complete panic attack about the idea of hanging out with them one-on-one. And I can also count on probably the fingers of both hands, the number of people I would feel comfortable inviting to hang out one-on-one without having a massive panic attack. So, and honestly, I can't even remember how those people got in my group. So I don't know if there's any advice on how to get over that awkwardness, but if not, and like I said, we could do that another week too.
Well, that comes down to practice for one, two, learning how to communicate, which to some people is going to be like, well, you just talk. It's learning how to communicate. And two, or three, getting help from people like us to exercise, get rid of the limiting beliefs and the bad programming that was put on your hard drive regarding talking to people. It's amazing how many people I meet that in their head they've got, I can't, new people can't, groups, horrifying, oh my gosh. But you get them talking about something that they're passionate about. If they find out that the person sitting next to them that they've never met is passionate about something they're passionate about, I'm like, you didn't know that guy. How'd you meet him? Well, I ever heard him say something about blah, 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 and I was interested, and next thing you know, we talked for 2 hours. The biggest thing is letting go of that movie about how terrible it's going to be. The vast majority of people that I meet that have phobias about talking to groups and talking to people is because they have, before they can even get there, they've already compiled 7 full-length feature movies of the worst possible case scenario. I'm going to walk in there, and the whole place is going to go from loud, loud, loud to shoo. And this big spotlight's going to come on me, and everybody's going to turn and look at me, and one person is going to go, ew, and everybody's going to laugh. And it never happens. But as long as there's that 1/trillionth of a possibility of that happening, that's enough for them. And believe it or not, we're down to 6 minutes for me to try and fit in topic number 3. So, Holly, I think that you're right. This is another good topic to bring up maybe to start off the year in 7 days. Do me a favor and remind me of that, and I'll whip something up on that. Now, this last one for the year, the last topic of 2024. Describe your mom. Now, if you've been around Triple T long enough, you know that I absolutely, flat out, fully, unquestionably, wholeheartedly adore my mama. Love you, Mom. She is so amazing that I have yet to meet one person that will say something bad about her. And I can say that because I would remember if somebody said something bad about my mom. They would too, because we'd be having a discussion. But that's not what this is about. This is about actually both parents, especially when it comes to dating realm. It's interesting the amount of people that date they either date their parents, not their parents, but people that have certain qualities of their parents. And it's either the best of or the worst of. And so with one of my Triple P clients, I saw a pattern. And so I had them write down everything they could to describe both their mother and their father, the best of and the worst of. And then we started looking at their past partners. That was an interesting comparison. They realized that they had been chasing partners that had the best of their mother and the worst of their father. And they often ended up with Jekyll and Hyde partners. And the problem was, when they met them, guess who showed up first? Dr. Jekyll, smooth and smiling and happy. And after they got attached and fell in love with Dr. Jekyll, guess who showed up? Mr. Hyde. And they didn't think that dealing with Mr. Hyde was enough to leave, because they still remembered how Dr. Jekyll made them feel when they first met. And they didn't realize it was because it reminded them of the best part of one of their parents. And Mr. Hyde was familiar, which is why they could tolerate it, because Mr. Hyde was the worst of one of their parents, or both. And so we worked on forgiving the parents, even though both of them had already passed, forgiving them because they did the best they could at the time with the tools, knowledge, and energy they had available to them. If they could have done better, they would have. And just because this person that they recently started dating reminded them of their parents, now that they are aware of what's going on, they don't have to accept the bad part of the parents. They don't need a Jekyll and Hyde. They can search for their person. But it was an easier way for them to identify who Mr. Hyde was. And it gave them permission to not get attached so quickly. Any quick comments, epiphanies, ahas on that before we close out this Triple T of the year? Yes, no, maybe so. Well, kids, I'm so looking forward to seeing you guys next year with my voice back intact. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate you guys so much. If it weren't for you, I'd be here talking to myself, which I've done before, but I doubt that I would have made it to 157 without your help and support. And I look forward to 2025. I wish the best year ever for you guys. A year of growth, a year of insights, a year of falling deeper in love with yourself and everything around you. And I hope that I can inspire you guys some more next year. Until then, thank you for, again, offering up your precious commodity of time. As always, I can't give it back to you. If I could, I would. As soon as I figure that out, you'll be the second one to know. Love you all. I'll see you guys next year.
All folks. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Love you, Mom.